Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we have to talk about a team that isn't getting much attention yet. And I think it's because there's a lot of people out there that I just see, they see what they are doing right now, but they don't think it's going to last. And you look at the entirety of the division, and it kind of tells you a story of how things have gone so far in the Metropolitan Division. Now, I want to shout out to the person that gave me the recommendation for this video. Let me see if, of course I can't find him. I responded, let me see. Louis R. He said Devil's video the other day. So, yeah, here you go, Louis R. Shout out to you. Here's your Devil's video. And you know what? I'm one of those people where if you guys get a video and you know what? You guys throw video ideas out there, and if it's actually worth talking about and I could actually talk about it, I'm going to do it. And today is one of those days where we're going to talk about the team that nobody's talking about, and that's the New Jersey Devils. So the New Jersey Devils, to give you context of how this season started, it was, going even into the season, it was, okay, here we go again. They did well in free agency. They did good at the draft. We've heard this story before. They win in the off seasons, but they can never win on the ice. And that was kind of the theme for the Devils going into this year. Now, they started off the season, and it didn't start off too well. They had a game in Philadelphia, October 13th. They lost that one 5-2 at a pretty much sold-out game at the Spectrum. I always do that. At Wells Fargo Arena, whatever it's called now. I have to put money in the jar for calling it the Spectrum. Anyway, the Flyers dominated the Devils in that game, 5-2. The Devils then went back home 2 days later for their first game at home at The Rock, a 5-2 loss at the hands of the Detroit Red Wings. And for most of that game, it looked good until the end of the second period where they give up a goal. Then there's a goal with less than a second left by the captain, Dylan Larkin, 4-2. And it was just deflating for that Red Wings team, or for the Devils. And we already hearing about Lindy Ruff. Fire Lindy Ruff. Ruff sucks, this and that. 2 games into the season, and you know what? Rightfully so. They did not start off good at all. But since then, they have only lost 1 game. In this 11-game window, they have won 10 of 11 games. They cracked off a big victory against the Anaheim Ducks, and that was their first win of the season at The Rock, a 4-2 victory. They went to UBS Arena and beat a pretty good New York Islanders team. Might have caught the Islanders in a little bit of a lull to start the year, but nonetheless, a win there for the Devils. So 4-2, 4-1. They played home against a struggling San Jose Sharks. They win that one 2-1. They did lose to the Washington Capitals 6-3, and the Boo Birds once again came back, and they were 3-3 at that point in the season. They went back to Detroit and got some revenge on the Red Wings over at Little Caesars Arena, winning that one 6-2, and all of a sudden their season record is now 4-3, and just like that, coming off of those first 2 games, they all of a sudden have a winning record. Then they come back home for 2 big contests, a big one against the defending Stanley Cup champions, a gutsy 1-0 victory against the Colorado Avalanche, and they are now 5-3 on the season. They host the Columbus Blue Jackets and splattered the Blue Jackets all over the ice on the night before Halloween, that Sunday night, and they win that one 7-1 with a 6-3 record, and all of a sudden a 3-game winning streak. Now this was the real first big test for them as they went on the road. A couple of teams in the Western Conference on the Western Canadian, what do they call that? The Northwestern Canadian road trip, and they took care of business completely. They played the Vancouver Canucks, won that one 5-2 over in Vancouver. That's a 4-game winning streak, a 4-3 victory over the Edmonton Oilers, and then a 4-3 overtime victory in Calgary, where the Calgary Flames have looked pretty good. They were able to get a win on the road. So now they come back home. Their next game against those Calgary Flames, once again, a home and home, which unfortunately for the Flames, they played the Islanders in between that stretch. But Calgary has been very good so far this year. So that first win was kind of huge for the Devils. They then go back on the road or come back home and they win 3-2 over the Calgary Flames, who are now on a 7-game winning streak, 10-3 on the season. Their last loss of the season came on October 24th at home against the Capitals. They have not lost since then. Now we are in the second week of November, and the Capitals have gone basically a month without a loss. The New Jersey Devils have turned things around quickly. And you look at how their season has kind of gone here. They've played a lot of home games. Throughout the first 13 games of the season, only 6 of those 13, so 7 home games, 6 road games so far to start this season. So they've had 7 games at the Rock to kind of get their season rolling. And a lot of those road games were kind of one-game trips, right? You know, they've only had one real road trip, though, so far. In Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary. The other games, it was a night trip in Detroit, a night trip on Long Island, and basically a 3-hour drive out to Philadelphia to start the season. So really, they're taking advantage of a schedule that is favorable to them. And that's where you could come with the argument and say that if the Devils start playing more games on the road and start losing a little mojo and maybe a little bit more fatigued, that this team might struggle a little bit more. And they, to this point, have not played a back-to-back this season. There has been at least one day in between every game they've played. Even in that Western Canadian road trip, they played November 1st, November 3rd, and the 5th, and then the 8th against Calgary the other day. So they do not play their first home or their first back-to-back nights until the end of this month. They go to Buffalo on the 25th. They play at home against the Washington Capitals the next night. And then they have to go to the Garden to play the New York Rangers November 28th, where they're going to play 3 games in 4 nights. That will be their first real... Again, you don't want to... obviously it's difficult playing on the road on the West Coast and this and that, but that will be the first real test in their schedule in terms of their mental fatigue and maybe a little bit more of a struggle in that regard. And those are the things that are kind of intangibles that you don't really think about, but those things matter. Playing on back-to-back nights and getting up for that third period and that second night of a back-to-back, those are going to be difficult. That's what separates the good teams from the great teams. And I think by the end of this year, going into January, the Devils will be tested enough where we're going to see where they stand. And I think that you have a couple of big games here. They have to go on that road trip to the Northeast. They have to take on Boston, Toronto, Detroit. They have to play a couple of those teams, Buffalo, right? So I think that'll be a good test for them. They have to go to the Garden on the third night, or their third game in 4 nights at the Garden. Thanksgiving weekend, it's going to be packed there at MSG. That's going to be a big game, and with the way the Rangers' season is going, that could be a desperate Rangers team there at the Garden. So those are going to be the real, genuine test of where the Devils stand. So tell me after that game where the Devils are at, because I think so far there is reason for concern because of those first couple games, but that's what happens, right? And since then, they have played some incredible hockey. And you look at their leading goal scorers, these are the guys you want to see at the top of the scoring chart. Jesper Bratt leads the Devils in points this season. He's got 5 goals and 13 assists. He's got 18 points in 13 games so far, so he's above a point per game. Same thing for Nico Hischier, the captain. He's got 14 points, 6 goals, and 8 assists. So the New Jersey Devils are getting those above point per game player production in Hischier and Jesper Bratt. And Jesper Bratt has actually broken a franchise record to start a season for consecutive points in a game throughout the start of the season. So shout out to Jesper Bratt. He has been incredible for the Devils this year. He had a little bit of a down year last year, but has completely returned to form. Jack Hughes is also up there as well with 12 points. Dougie Hamilton has 10. Miles Wood, who was basically a non-factor for most of last year, he's back. He's got 8 points. Tatar with 8. Dawson Mercer, seeing some of the younger guys with 6 points. And you kind of get the picture, right? The Devils are getting that depth scoring. Nate Bastian has 6 points. Sharon Govich has 6 points. Graves with 6 points. Fabian Zetterlund with 5 points. Those are the guys you want to see getting some production, and the Devils are getting that right now. So there is reason to be pretty optimistic with how the Devils have done so far in terms of that. Now, there is a reason for maybe concern, maybe just things will get better in this category, and the fact that they're doing what they are, there is reason to see maybe improvement, and it even gets better. Vitek Vanacek had a little bit of a rough start, but has kind of settled in. He's got a .915 save percentage, 2.18 goals against average. He's already got a shutout on the year. He's got 6 wins in 8 games for the New Jersey Devils. So Vanacek, former Hershey Bear, I'm going to tip my cap to that always. He has played very well so far. Mackenzie Blackwood, not expected to see him anytime really soon as he is out on the LTIR. So we do not expect to see much on the Mackenzie Blackwood front. And you would think that is it for the Devils and their season is over. But that is obviously not the case. And you know what? He is not listed on the LTIR right now. So apologies for that because he's not on the LTIR. So he is back onto the roster for the Devils. But this is a huge year for Blackwood. I mean, we've talked about it before. He's got an .880 save percentage. He's played in 7 games, almost a 3 goals against average. That's just not good enough. Vitek Vanacek is going to have to carry this team in between the pipes. If the Devils are going to do anything, we always talk about this every year with every team, and specifically the Devils this year, you need good goaltending. And when Vitek Vanacek is on his game and not giving up that late goal at the end of the period or the beginning of a period, he is on his game and really solid and has given the Devils a chance to win a lot of hockey games. Because the Devils' production in terms of goals for this season has really improved. You look at some of their stats here, goals for in the league and goals against, they are both top 10 in the entire league. Goals for, they have 47 goals this season, which is 9th in the entire National Hockey League. And their goals against is even better. 33 goals against, 7th best in the entire National Hockey League. Now you always want to look at special teams. So this was back on November 7th, and the injury for Mackenzie Blackwood is a knee injury, and Lindy Ruff said Blackwood will miss 3 to 6 weeks. So we probably won't see him again until around Christmas time. So probably the end of December. So don't expect to see Blackwood. So that's the update there. There is a little bit of concern as well about Andre Palat, who is the only Devil technically listed on the injured reserve. Bernier is on LTIR, but on the regular injured reserve, Andre Palat is on the IR today. The Devils announced that Palat has been placed on injured reserve, and apparently it was a groin injury he sustained at the end of October. So, again, another guy hopefully we see before the end of the month. But, again, you just don't know with recovery and things like that how it's all going to play out. But it doesn't even seem like they need Andre Palat right now. The Devils are playing well. So like I was getting back to, in terms of their power play and penalty kill, their penalty kill is playing well above average right now. The average in the NHL right now is 78% on the penalty kill. The Devils are eclipsing over 83% on the penalty kill, which is absolutely phenomenal. They are doing very, very good in that category. They're getting slightly below average goaltending. I think a lot of that is from Mackenzie Blackwood. Might have to do with his injury, but Vitek Vanacek seems to be keeping them in line a little bit there. Penalty kill, a little bit below average. It's a little bit struggling, but nothing I would be all that concerned about. So really the Devils, listen, they are doing some really good things right now. Their goals against has gone down drastically. The games that they do give up a lot of goals seems to be like those 6, the games where they give up a lot of goals, right? They gave up 6 to Washington. They gave up 6 to Detroit, or 5 to Detroit. They gave up another stinker in the beginning of the year. So the Devils, it seems like when they give up goals, it's a lot of goals in that game and isn't overall like they're giving up 3 or 4 goals a game. That doesn't seem to be the narrative, and that's really the good thing for the Devils there. Overall, I think the Devils they've overachieved so far. And I think that a lot of Devils fans were frustrated, rightfully so, after those first 2 games. But you have to keep things in check. Like, it is an 82-game schedule. If they lost those first 2 games 20-0, both of those games, and then won the next 80 games, would you care about those first 2 games at the end of the season? Because they're 80-2. Again, obviously that's the extreme end of it, but you get what I'm saying is, the Devils are one of those teams that you have to deal with the flows of these guys maturing. You have to look at this team. Jack Hughes is still very young. Jesper Bratt's still very young. Nico Hischier, the captain, is still fairly young. These guys are going to start to come into their own this year, and I think that Jack Hughes said it last year. I think that's the narrative this year for the Devils is obviously you always want to shoot for the playoffs, right? But realistically, if you can get yourself playing meaningful games in February and March, trying to make a last-minute push in the beginning of April to maybe get, stumble your way into the playoffs, that is a great position for the New Jersey Devils. That is well above where they've been the last couple of years. And I would say that's a pretty good mark for this team. And they are going to do everything in their power to give themselves a chance at the end of the year. Right? You talk about, you just want to give me a chance. And I think that's what the Devils are looking to do this year. And who knows, maybe they end up going to the playoffs. Because the way this division is it's very odd. Any given night, you're seeing, the Rangers drop a couple of games. The Islanders playing very well. The Penguins playing very poorly. Columbus not doing that well. Washington seems like kind of a tweener team. There is room here for the Devils to make the playoffs. And it's hard to argue. I look at that record at 10-3. That's a record you would expect from, say, a Tampa Bay Lightning or Colorado Avalanche at the beginning of this season. And that's something to be really proud of here for the Devils. So everything can go to shit after I make this video. And hopefully that doesn't get me demonetized for saying that. But everything could go wrong for the Devils after this, but I don't think it's going to. At least not right away. And I think the fact that they have a good goaltender there in Vanacek, it seems like Ruff has really kind of built the structure of that defense, and they're playing very soundly defensively. Those are the keys to success this year for the Devils. Shout out to Louis R. for his comment, and obviously I had to mention that. Captain Mofungo, Don Weaver's sort of a Devils fan. He's kind of an everybody fan. But obviously, shout out to you guys because you guys are big supporters of the channel, and I thought it was worth mentioning you guys. Shout out to Urban Champ as well. He's not a Devils fan, but he's always commenting, and I had to give him a little shout out as well. Why not, right? Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure, if you have not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That would really help us out here. And also give this video a big thumbs up. Of course, that will help us out as well. Or a thumbs down. Either way, it helps me out. I don't really care one way or the other. You won't hurt my feelings. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you again next time.